All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Congenital Heart Surgery Database monthly webinar. Today is Tuesday, February the 21st of 2023. So again, happy Mardi Gras, happy Fat Tuesday, everyone. On the call with me today, let's see, from the STS side, we have myself, we have Carol Crone, Addie Dolan, Emily Conrad, Melinda Offer, Sydney Clinton. We have from our core group, we have Leslie handling today's education. Chastity is not able to join us today. And then from our surgeon leadership, we have Dr. Subramanian joining. Thank you, Dr. Subramanian. We appreciate you being on these calls with us. So again, welcome everyone to today's webinar. Just brief agenda. I'm just going to, again, provide some brief STS updates, and then I'll turn things over to Leslie for our education for today. And as usual, we'll finish things with off with our Q&A. Please be sure to submit your questions via the Q&A function and not that chat. Again, put your questions into the Q&A. Also, we do have the raise hand function enabled. So if you'd like to just ask your question, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So just make sure that your microphone is enabled from your end. So let's go ahead and jump in to the STS updates. Many of you, if you were on our last call, I just pulled over this information again, just to remind you all, also for those that were not able to join us, just a reminder of our new support plan here at STS. This is for all three of our databases. We are no longer utilizing the IQVIA Tier 1 support. So if you have any questions related to your analysis reports, your IQVIA dashboard, your IQVIA login, you have questions about your uploads with IQVIA, please email us at stsdb_helpdesk@sts.org. So again, STS will be handling all of the Tier 1 support, and then we will escalate things as needed to IQVIA Tier 2 support, and STS will answer questions as well. If you have questions regarding your contact updates, contracts, and other general database questions, please continue to reach out to us at stsdb@sts.org. And as always, for clinical support, just continue to use our clinical question submission process with the request form. And again, when you do submit your clinical questions, please ensure that you are selecting the correct data version and database, so they get filtered to the appropriate mailboxes. If you are not sure who to contact with all these email addresses, please feel free to just email me directly, and I'm happy to point you to the correct mailbox for assistance. Also, a follow-up from our last call for the new documents that are posted within the IQVIA library. That revised Fall 22 Harvest Composite Quality Rating Summary document has been revised. And again, it's the Fall 22 CHSD Harvest Composite Quality Rating Summary document. So that revised document has been posted within the IQVIA library, and you're able to access that at this time. And also, for those that were not on the call last time, the Norwood source of pulmonary blood flow, the coding instructions for coding that source of pulmonary blood flow have been posted and are out on the IQVIA platform within the library. All right, continuing with our STS updates, the spring 2023 harvest again includes the surgery dates of January 1, 2019 through December 31st of 2022. The harvest close is quickly approaching. The harvest is scheduled to close on March the 10th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So please be sure to get those data files in prior to that last day. Murphy's Law, you never know what's going to happen. So please, we do encourage you to submit those data files early and often. Opt out for the spring 23 harvest no later than March the 14th. Also, just a reminder, the 6.23.2 data collection resources are now available on the STS website, so they are available for you to download and access. And just a reminder that that training manual is coming soon. It is currently a work in progress. Chastity, Leslie, core group, they're all working extremely hard on that new training manual, and it is a huge lift, and please extend them some grace and some patience. That training manual document will be coming very soon. Speaking of coming soon, the email to sites at risk for exclusion in the spring 23 harvest will be coming. That email will be sent approximately 10 days prior to our harvest close. So that would be coming to you around the 1st of March. The recipients for these emails will include the primary and backup data and file contacts. So if you have backup data and file contacts who are not familiar with the harvesting process or anything like that, you may just want to give them a heads up that this document is coming. This email is coming, but again, we do send this email to our primary and backup data and file contacts only. With these emails, there are some key points I would like for you to remember. The missingness that we report to you in these emails is based on a snapshot of the data taken on a specific date. We'll likely take the snapshot of the data likely the day before these emails are set to go out. So again, these snapshot is taken just before these emails go out. Also, the numbers that are provided in this email are based on pre-analysis data. And also it's important to know that once we send out these emails, we run this report and get these numbers to you. Please know that we cannot go back and rerun this report to check your data. Again, this is just some key points to remember. All of this is explained a lot more in the letters that are the emails that are sent to you. So if you have any questions, if you're one of the sites to receive this email, if you have any questions afterwards, please feel free to email me directly and I'll assist you in any way that I can. What I wanted to, if you have not received this email before, I wanted to just explain a little bit of what these at-risk emails include. So this at-risk email identifies records that are missing key mortality and risk model variables. So we're focusing on those sites that are at risk or greater than 2% missingness or unknown for one or more of the required operative mortality variables. And we're also looking for sites that are at risk at greater than 10% of missingness or unknown for one or more of the risk model variables. So the specific variables we're looking at for operative mortality include mortality database discharge status, mortality hospital discharge status, and mortality 30-day status. The risk model variables that we're looking for with greater than 10% of missingness or known include pre-op factor, NCAA, your chromosomal abnormalities, your syndromes, the number of previous cardiothoracic operations, and prematurity for neonates and infants only. Also, it's important to note that when we're looking at these variables, unknown is considered as missing data. So just keep that in mind as well. Also, I just wanted to give a brief CHSD public reporting update. I guess we've gotten a few questions lately regarding public reporting, so just wanted to give you the most up-to-date information. So currently, the CHSD public reporting website reports includes data from the fall 21 analysis. Coming in the spring of 2023, so coming soon, our exact date is yet to be determined. The website will be refreshed to include the fall 22 analysis results. After the spring 23 refresh, we will do one additional refresh this year in fall winter of 2023. That additional refresh will include our spring 23 analysis results. So we'll have 2 data refreshes this year. Again, coming soon in spring 23, we'll update to include the fall 22 analysis results. Then after the spring 23 harvest closes, analysis is done later in the year in fall winter of 2023, we will do one additional refresh to include those spring 23 results. Then in 2024, we will resume with our annual schedule of just updating the congenital heart surgery database public reporting website annually with the spring analysis results. I think that is it for our STS updates. Leslie, I'm going to turn things over to you for our webinar education today.
Okay, great. Thanks, Leanne. You can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to give a quick update on the FAQ kind of process and then some updates. So this last month, we had a record number of FAQs come in. So thank you all for your patience. Some of you have already received response. The rest of you should be receiving them in the coming days. But we got through about half of the submitted questions on our core call last week, and that was the last one before harvest. So we are working on the rest of the questions via email to try to get responses out to everyone before harvest will close. A good number of the FAQs, though, that came in were US News related, and just a reminder that the FAQ clinical question portal is not the appropriate spot for submitting US News questions. So Sydney was kind enough to put the US News email address in the chat. It's at the very beginning. If you do have questions, please reach out to them directly. A lot of other questions came in about our most recent report, how to read it, what tables meant, things like that, which we will get into in the coming slides. But I wanted to give other updates just regarding FAQ, kind of how the questions come in and how the answers go out. So we talked a little bit about on a previous call about the process. Questions come in, we monitor the inbox, send out answers as we can if they're kind of direct or already been answered in the training manual. But if you send in an op note and it says, please read this op note and how do I code this case, just keep in mind that that is going to go to the core group. It's going to go to our surgeons, and that those questions are going to take a little bit longer to get back to you. That's going to be more of like closer to that 30-day window than quick responses. And then if it's a very specific clinical question like that with an op note or echoes or other documentation, that entire thing is not going to end up in the training manual. You'll get a response. And if it's generalizable, we'll summarize that in the training manual. And then one more quick thing about the use of other fields. We often come back and say you can code that in other, or put that in cardiac other, or put that in syndrome other. Please use those and put in notes whenever possible in the free text boxes. Not only is that a good way for you to go back to your data locally, but we use that at the time of a version upgrade. We pull those responses of whatever's in free text and look at that. How many times did we enter different things in those boxes? I don't remember the numbers offhand, but we kind of take a general, if it's been noted more than X amount of times, we consider adding that as a new field or revamping an existing field. So please use those and put your notes in as best you can. Okay, Leanne, next slide. Okay, a lot of the questions that came in this month as well were about matching our local data to the reports, to the published reports. And as we have said for probably a year and a half now, the simple, easy, straightforward answer is you can't. There's been a ton of changes and updates, so it is extremely difficult to match exactly what is in those published reports. Fortunately, though, with the IQVIA system, there's tons of data points and tons of fields with asterisks, and those you can get into and see exactly what makes up those fields. Leanne, next slide. So one way to look at what actually ends up in the reports, one, you can find out what everything that you submitted by using your DAT file or the export function available from your own vendor. Those are different for everyone, so I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but you can see here's my entire file from that reporting period. You can also go onto the IQVIA server in the DQR, the uploader screen, and see how many cases you sent in. That's a good filter. There's critical errors, of course, errors and warnings for what doesn't get in, what does get in, but you can compare those lists. This is what I sent, and this is what they got. And then if you want to use the various tables in the published reports with asterisks, this is in the adjusted reports, those published feedback reports, can be expanded so that you can see exactly when it went into that number. So this is just a screenshot. That's the total operations submitted, I believe, for those 4 years. It has an asterisk, so you can go up into the right-hand corner of your report and click See Details. Next slide. And when you do that, you'll get a big long list that looks like this. I cut out the patient-specific information on the left, but this would be 2,900 records from that one I just showed you. And you can export this file. Right-click, export the table, however you prefer. Next slide. Okay, that again was operations submitted. So what's important to remember here is that operations submitted does not mean every single thing you submitted during your harvest. It means basically everything submitted to this report or everything accepted to this report. So when you pull up that long list of 2,000 or 1,000, however many operations submitted, if you can't find your patient or your event in that list, they will not appear anywhere else in the report. So that's the first place that I suggest you look to see if your event made it in. Okay, next slide. Okay, once you have downloaded those reports into your Excel files, if you want to look and see how many patients went, how many patients did I send in, how many patients got to that table 1 operation submitted, you can line up all of your patient or event IDs in an Excel spreadsheet like this, highlight the column. That's an example, just I'm sure you can tell, but 1 through 10, and then the next numbers, that's not what your patient IDs will look like, but you line them all up in your column, highlight the column, click on conditional formatting, highlight cell rules, and duplicate values. It's those 3 steps, and this on the right is exactly what comes up. That's the default. It highlights your duplicates in red, and it leaves unduplicated values unhighlighted. So we can see 5 and 8 are not highlighted. So that is what I look for. That's the first thing I look for. Who did I send in that I think I sent in, and who ended up in table 1? And then you can look up those patients and see what they might be missing or why they weren't submitted. I also suggest adding filters and then just sort by no color, so you can see those at the top. I tend to think I learn more from figuring out who didn't make it in than who did, but this is just a simple, hopefully quick way for you to see those. And then you can do this not just with table 1, but with any of those comparison tables that we mentioned on the last call, like what goes into table 1 verse 16, line up your similar lists, look for duplicates, and then look at the ones not duplicated to see why they fell out. Next slide. Okay, back to table 1. I just thought it was important to point out what exactly some of these things mean. So like I mentioned, operations submitted does not just mean everything sent. Operations submitted must have their mortality data complete. So hospital discharge date and status, database discharge date and status, and 30-day status. Then as you move down, operations in analysis, that number 2, mortality data must be complete. And then these are your CPB cardiovascular or no CPB cardiovascular operations. Next line down, patients in analysis. This to me isn't intuitive. It does not mean unique patients. It means index operations of that group, right? So your mortality data is complete. Then we pick out just the cardiac operations. And now this is unique index operations in that reporting period. And then finally, number eligible, once you get down to the mortality section, that then we remove some of those additional analytic parameters, like we remove neonate pacemaker procedures and patients who've had a PDA ligation as their primary procedure who weigh less than 2.5 kilograms. Next slide. Okay, so some things when you are trying to match your local data to your published reports, these are the kind of the most commonly missed exceptions. So number 1, remember that we're using new stat categories, and the new combo codes are in analysis, but not in your local data. Your mortality data must be complete to get into those tables. COVID positive patients were excluded for certain dates. Make sure you keep in mind who was or wasn't discharged when you submitted the harvest, not now. When you're pulling your local data, all of those fields might be complete, but when you sent them in, they might not have been. And then if you're just trying to see, who ended up in this stat 5 length of stay table, go into your table 19, I think, click on the box that has the asterisk and get the patient list. And that way it's much easier to me anyway, to compare who I know is in that report and who I think should be in the report. And then I can look at those patients who fell out. Okay, next slide. And then this one was a really common one that came up in the FAQ box for postoperative length of stay. So remember here that we do exclude stays that are greater than 364 days. We include mortalities, and then this uses database discharge date, not hospital discharge date. Okay, that was a ton. So I think that's all I have. Maybe. Leanne, do I have another slide? Sorry, I've already forgotten.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for the updates. I appreciate. While we're waiting for people to put additional questions into the Q&A, I'll go ahead and finish up with additional slides. Contact information, again, I don't know if you want to print this out, have it handy by your laptop or in your desk by your cube, whatever. Here's my contact information. You can reach me here directly at my email or my phone. It's easier to get in touch with me via email. Again, for database operational questions, questions regarding IQVIA login, contact information for your site, things like that, please reach out to us at stsdb@sts.org. And then tech support, analysis, report related questions, questions about your uploads, anything regarding tech support issues related, please reach out to us at stsdb_helpdesk@sts.org. Upcoming congenital webinars. We have our next user group call is scheduled for March the 7th at 12 p.m. Central. And then we have our next monthly webinar scheduled for March the 21st at 12 p.m. Central. Let's see. So again, next user group call is March 7 at 12 p.m. Central. And then our next monthly webinar is March 21st at 12 p.m. Central. And that's all that I have from the STS perspective. Let's go ahead and tackle some of your questions. I just see a few in here. So let's go ahead and get started with these questions. So Nancy, so anesthesia data is not a factor. So I think you put that question in when I was going over the mortality variables and risk model variables. No, so for the percent missingness, the missing data thresholds, we're only looking at the 2% is for mortality variables. And then for the risk model variables, we're looking at those specific ones. Q&A is off. Carol, can you check to see if the Q&A is still?
No, it's
there?
It's on.
Okay.
Oh, wait. How about now? I may have clicked the wrong one.
Okay.
Sorry about
looks
that.
okay. No,
Very
you're fine.
sorry about that.
That's okay. Thanks, Angie. So again, Nancy, the anesthesia data is not a factor when we're looking at those 2% operative mortality missingness threshold, and the risk model variables is for the composite. So no, the anesthesia data is not a factor when we're looking at those missingness thresholds. Stephanie, why is there no free text box for pregnancy complications? That is a good question. Are you talking about in the current version or in the 6.23 version? I don't have it pulled up. Hold on.
I know in the current version, it was the first time that we had other.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can look at how many times other is checked. Right. Then if we need to open a free text box, we can. I don't know if we did for this next version though.
Pregnancy, I've got, let's see, pregnancy related, let's see, I've got it pulled up here. So pregnancy related complications. We do have other, but we don't have a free text. Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's vendor specific at this point.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's see, Ruthie, IQVIA enhancement report, which sends us the excluded cases, is necessary to better match report to our local data. The drill down option already allows us to validate included cases. Please prioritize this report for data managers. I agree 110%, Ruthie. That is at the top of our request for our enhancements list with IQVIA. So we're working with them. I don't have an update yet on when that will be available, but that is at the very top of our list. But I agree, that's very much needed and highly requested. So we're working on it. Let's see, Sydney, I think you're addressing the public reporting question. I'll come back to that. It's in the current version, and also you can't download the fall 22 harvest composite quality rating summary. Okay, let me check on that, but I know it's posted, but let me see if I can download it. If not, I'll have Melanie republish it. Here's a question. If our vendor, you're welcome, Ruthie. If our vendor has the new combo codes in our software, is it okay to use them? Is there a problem to use them if in the primary spot? Leslie, do you want to tackle that one?
You cannot use them. They're not valid codes until the next version. I believe some vendors added them as a convenience so that you could see them, but the codes still need to match up with the data event version, the version of the surgery, not the sorry, that's too new. The version corresponding with the date of surgery for that event.
All right. Are there any changes to transfusion being made in upcoming version updates? More specifically, how does transfusion data get used?
I'll take that, Leanne.
Yes, sir.
So this is Ram. Julia, it's a good question. As you probably are aware, version 6.2.3.2 is going to have substantial changes in transfusion. Huli, if you've not seen that yet, Huli, I think you should go look at the 6.23 DCF. We've already cut back significantly on the transfusion data. In full transparency, some of the transfusion data went to the anesthesia section of the DCF because the anesthesiologists believe that there is still value in collecting those transfusion data. We did not find transfusion data to have much value, especially for our risk model, which is why we have truncated it down. As a general rule, I will tell you, and we've said this before, we're committed to looking at the DCF at a regular cadence to see what the data collection burden is compared to the benefit of collecting those data. So if in the future we find that even the current set of transfusion questions don't meaningfully add much, we are committed to cutting down the number of data fields we have because we recognize that this is a significant data burden to all of you data managers, and we will continue to do what best we can to optimize them.
Thank you, Dr. Subramanian. I know there've been a couple of questions. I just want to remind everyone, I see a couple of questions coming into the chat. If you could put your questions into the Q&A, I'm working, it's hard for me to manage both of them, but I saw Dr. Subramanian, there was a question in the Q&A from Tina. It says, can you explain mortality category? I saw filters in the Excel file. Can you go over each of these in detail? Did you want to tackle that question? Okay.
I'm happy to answer that. Can we put up that slide if we still have it? I think it was in Leslie's slide. So Tina and others, it's pretty straightforward once we understand what's going on. It's just a complicated way these people like to write codes and talk about complicated. You know, we know what that is. We've looked at these and worked with them. Maybe it's not here. Anyway, I'll go by what you put in the chat box, Tina. So
yeah.
For someone to be included in the stat mortality analysis, the op type needs to be 1 or 2. So it needs to be CPB cardiovascular or no CPB cardiovascular. Second, the primary op type should be 1. That is, it must be a procedure that can be counted as a primary procedure. So for example, it cannot be a placement on ECMO. If a patient just had ECMO placement and expired, ECMO placement is not an op type 1 or 2. ECMO placement is not something that becomes a primary procedure. So it needs to be primary procedure equals 1. Op mortality equals 1 means that it must be assigned a operative mortality, that is database discharge mortality, should be assigned 1. Mort exclude equal to 0 means that it shouldn't fit one of those criteria for which the mortality will need to be excluded. So I'll give you an example for that. In the previous harvest close in fall 2022, if the patient had tested positive for COVID, then that mort exclude would have been 1. Because if you tested positive for COVID, we made a decision not to include them in the analysis. So that data file should not fit the mort exclude equal to 1. and stat mortality level equals to X means that procedure must have a stat score and a stat mortality category assigned to it. As you know, there is a very small subset of procedures for which there is no stat score attached. If that's the only procedure that was done, it will not be included in mortality. And then mort data equals 1 means mort data are available. So if you don't have mortality data, they cannot be included. And gender is 1, 2 means the gender that you chose at the beginning in the demographics has to be male or female. So that's sort of, it needs to satisfy all of those criteria for it to be counted as an operative mortality. Now, the big caveat is before going through all of this, remember the important and excellent slide. Yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Remember the important and excellent slide that Leslie showed on how if it didn't show up in the operation submitted, it's not even going to go through this extensive mechanism by which it gets included or not as a mortality. So again, these are just exclusions to make sure that we only count the mortality for those primary procedures that are CPB cardiovascular or non-CPB cardiovascular, have an operative database discharge mortality per the current CHSD definition for the primary procedure that has a known stat mortality and the patient's male or female status is known. I know it was a long answer, but that's how to provide a detailed answer for that, Tina. Hopefully that was clear. If not, please feel free to email me and I'm happy to explain this in greater detail.
Thank you, Dr. Subramanian. That was the perfect explanation. And for anyone that's not aware, the spreadsheet that I'm showing is the CHSD risk adjusted report calculations spreadsheet that IQVIA provides. And again, this is just a spreadsheet with all the calculations that are used for each of the reports out on the IQVIA platform. This spreadsheet is located within the library within the IQVIA platform, so it can be downloaded from the IQVIA platform and is a phenomenal resource. It's like Dr. Subramanian said, it's a lot of information, but it is there available to you, and it's a phenomenal resource. So it is there if you would like to download this calculation spreadsheet. Our next questions, the next two questions actually kind of are able to answer them. How do you determine which COVID patients to exclude and what dates did you choose to exclude them? And then Kathy also, and kind of the same category, is there a list of all the exclusion criteria that is posted, that is listed in one place? So yes, the exclusion criteria can all be found in the analysis overview. And again, this document is posted within the library of the IQVIA platform. So regarding the COVID data, here's the information regarding COVID patients. So starting with OR dates as of April 1, 2020, any COVID-19 positive patients pre-procedural within 30 days post-surgery with a surgery date of April 1, 2020 through December 31, 2021 are excluded from analysis and will not be included in public reporting. As of January 1, 2022, analysis exclusions will cease for any record with a surgery date of January 1, 2022 forward. So again, so COVID positive patients with a surgery date of January 1, 2022 forward are included in analysis. COVID positive patients with a surgery date of April 1, 2020 through December 31, 2021 are not included in analysis. So I hope that helps to answer that one, Colleen. And then Kathy, all of the exclusion criteria for the composite is located here in the analysis overview. I'm sorry, I typically had realized that I did not update my bookmarks here in this document, so I will go back and update that. But all of the determination of case eligibility for inclusion and mortality analysis, all of this information here regarding the 2% missingness threshold, all of that information is found here in the analysis overview. As you scroll down and once you get to the information on the composite, let me scroll. Sorry for all of my scrolling, guys. Like I said, I'll go back and update those bookmarks. You have all of your information here regarding the risk model specifications. And then if you scroll down here, you'll get additional all of the inclusion criteria, participant level inclusion criteria, operation level inclusion criteria for the risk model. So all of that information can be found here within the analysis overview. And again, that's posted in the IQVIA library. All right, I hope that helps. Let's see. Stephanie says she was able to open the quality rating summary now. All right, perfect. Thank you. I think somebody has their hand raised. Hold on. Oh, Ruthie, I think you have a question. Hi, Ruthie.
You guys hear me? Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but it all comes back to that report being the priority, because if we know exactly who's excluded, then you would have a list and say, okay, this one's excluded for COVID. This one's excluded for the Z-score. This one's excluded because they're a neonate pacemaker. This one's excluded because they're PDA less than 2.5 kilos. So, or this is a cardiac other. So you know what I mean? So it just kind of all kind of ties in. So just how important we need that enhanced report.
Yep, I understand, Ruthie. Hear you very much. I agree. It would answer. I completely agree. So it is at the top of our priority list. Next question from Nancy. Is there two separate word versions, one for peds and one for adult congenital? It would be easier to circulate to NP. Right now there is only one form for 6.23.2. I know Carol and I talked about creating a separate form for the adult congenital patients. First of all, I just wanted to get the current form out to everyone. So it'll take me some work, but also just know when you are entering the data, you know, the parent-child edits, you won't have to answer every question, or all the questions won't show immediately on the form. It'll all depend on the parent-child relationships and how that's set up within the data specifications. So we'll definitely work on getting a separate data collection form. It'll take me some time to get that out and get that working properly, but I will work on that. Has anyone looked at the COVID data to see if those patients had significantly different mortality than non-COVID positive patients?
I can take that. No,
Yes, sir.
Angie, we have not formally looked at whether COVID impacts mortality or not. But I would like to add that the COVID decision is standard across all the database, not just for the congenital heart surgery database. And therefore, we decided to leave it as is and go back and look at it after a little bit of time has passed to see if and how COVID impacts the mortality.
Thank you. All right. Let me make sure I'm not missing any questions if there were some in the chat. I don't see any additional questions. All right, we've got about 20 minutes to the hour. Dr. Subramanian, did you have anything that you wanted to add while we were waiting if any additional questions are coming in?
No, I thank the data managers. They are the life and soul of our database. So thank you for everything you do. And we're committed to making the process smoother, easier, and the analysis easier for you to comprehend. We're always available for any clarification. So really, thank you so much. We owe you a huge debt of gratitude.
Exactly. All right. I'm not seeing any additional questions come in. Want to be respectful of everyone's time. All right. Again, not seeing anything come in. So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up today's call. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Dr. Subramanian, for being on the call. Always appreciate you being here more than you know. Leslie, thanks for providing today's education, and thanks to all my STS colleagues for joining today. I appreciate you guys very much. Again, if you have any questions, you're not sure who to contact, please just reach out to me directly, and I am more than happy to help and get you to the correct resource. All right. Thank you, everybody. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a happy Fat Tuesday to everyone. Happy Mardi Gras. Thanks, everyone.